Hey everyone, it's Ivan, KeepAtcher.com, here for another gear review, and today, talking backpacks. This one right here, which is the 24-liter SHADO Pack by Prometheus Design Werx. The SHADO Pack, S-H-A.D.O, it's an acronym. Suspension, haul, access, durability, organized. And it's pretty much built around the idea of a everyday carry pack. And while I have kind of used it in that capacity, I've definitely used it outside the scope of its design, like kind of pushing its limits, and it's done a pretty good job for me. Before I dip into my experience with it, go ahead and kind of give you an overview of some of the features on it. As far as stats goes on this, it's made out of a number of different materials, the bulk of which is 500D Invista Cordura, also 500D nylon and spandex, different places like these water bottle or pretty much whatever you want to put in there, expansion there. And then you also have multiple density closed cell foam. What does that mean? Well, basically this foam back here, which makes it pretty comfortable and also has basically airway paths. So when you're wearing this, if it's hot, it'll actually breathe while it's on your back. But we'll dig into some of the features of this. Starting with the back of the pack, you have this panel right here, which has basically laser cut PALs. So if you want to attach anything compatible with PALs, it can go ahead and go on this panel. This panel can also be completely removed depending on how you intend to use it. For me personally, I actually like having it on here. And while it has these straps up top, they're also tethered. So rather than having loose ends that are just hanging all over, when you cinch these up, or when you loosen them, basically they're secured here so you don't have just random bits of webbing hanging off. One thing that I sometimes will do is I'll basically undo that, loosen this up some, and I'll go ahead and throw basically my camera case right here, have this all loosened, stretch it over, clip it down. You can, of course, and I have used it, where I'll just shove a basically usually like a rain layer or even just a warming layer in here, something I want to have quick access to. Really handy. Again, you can undo these, take that panel completely off. Then we have this whole back section. There's a daisy chain here. Honestly, don't really use it. Same with these loops here. Don't usually use them. Shock cord I will use sometimes. Same thing. Take a warming layer, jam it down in there, cinch it up. And they also have these loops built in for like ice axes. Haven't used it. Same thing up here, put the handle through here and you can essentially cinch this piece up. Also quickly on the back panel here, this opens up and you can actually store things in there, whether you want to put map, I don't know, pretty much whatever you'd want to lay flat in there. There's a couple different compartments. First compartment is accessed right here. Open this up and inside you actually have a Velcro field, which can be handy depending on what type of like attachments you have. There's a number of companies that make basically Velcro back different loops of elastic. So you can have this organized depending, magazines, pins, whatever, chem lights, whatever it may be. And this pocket doesn't go super deep. That's the depth of it right there. And again, it's relatively shallow. You can expand it out, but then you're pushing this pack out in this direction. I usually keep just some random stuff like pin, some toilet paper, and I think there's a random patch stuck in there too. But that's basically that little compartment right there. Also on either side, you have this elastic, and I use these for water bottles. One thing I will say about these is depending on the water bottle, like yes, the elastic moves out, so you can shove it in there, but it can also, if it's a really like wide, whether it's Nalgene, which this is basically Nalgene dimension, it can push in. So depending on how full your pack is, it might really stretch these. And these aren't secured. So I only bring that up because I was skiing down a hill, crashed, and had a water bottle come out. Fortunately, my buddy was able to stop it. Also on either side of the pack, you have these grab handles, same with on the very top and on the other side. So if you want, you can basically suitcase carry this pack. There are then two main compartments to this pack. This first one here which goes the zippers on either side almost all the way down and basically kind of clamshells open. And with that, on this inside piece, you have two different compartments, one being deeper, this one being a little more shallow, and you can pretty much put whatever you want. It's this mesh, and it's also blaze orange should you need to signal with it, kind of handy. And it being mesh, you can obviously see exactly what is in here. Inside this, like when I travel, for example, I usually keep my hard drives and cables, things along those lines. I'll keep them in these DACA pouches, makes it handy. And then I don't usually use it, even though this has it. Basically, there's a laptop sleeve, padded 15-inch laptop. I have a 15-inch MacBook Pro from like 2013, which I edit on, and this, I actually keep it in here. I don't use this just because I like keeping it in here, and this I'll either put down in this pouch or in the back pouch. Again, this first one, clamshells pretty much all the way open, whereas this pouch doesn't quite go down as much, but some similarities. So inside here, we again have these compartments we can access, even though the zipper doesn't go all the way down, and bag for my skins. And inside here, we again can store things in there. And then in the back here, we actually have this elastic pouch where you can go ahead and if you want, you can actually hang a bladder, like a water bladder. And right here, this piece, you can go ahead and loop it through there so it'll actually hang. It won't just drop into the bottom of your pack and get jammed down there. And then with that, there's a routing hose, right, or a routing port right here for your water hose if you want to run it up there. Something else pretty cool is they come with this panel. So up top, we have this handle right here, and we can look straight into it, unzip these as we need them. I basically have this set up with med kits, or a med kit rather. Stuff for blood loss up here, other things here, and some drugs down here if they're needed. Again, organizer on the back side, as well as these, which are cut to pals, so you can attach any pouches or anything like that that you want here. And again, just additional organization up top here. And this is female Velcro, so any type of male Velcro pouch, to include this, you can go ahead and stick to it if you want to attach it that way as well. A couple more nice things with respect to these shoulder pads. It's the same type of foam that's made up of these, and so you have holes through the foam as well as ribs, and then on top of it, this mesh, so really helps breathe. Also, it's just some cool little things, like where you have these buckles where you can actually take these shoulder pads off if you want. They're actually covered, so it's just not exposed. And your sternum strap right here, you can actually move it, adjust it higher or lower. And of course, there's D-rings. You can attach different things right here. Have a compass on here. And something else that is nice with respect to flexibility is on the very bottom of the pack, there's more of those laser cut pals, which I'll speak to how I've used that in the past in a couple minutes. But right here, the other nice thing is scalability. So when you start carrying heavier weight in your pack, you don't necessarily want all that weight sitting on your shoulders. So they actually make a hip belt that comes with this. And the way this actually works is set up like that rather. This lumbar pad, you can undo that, pull that pad away, and then go ahead and set this guy up there. This pad back in place and secure it, and now you have a hip belt. And if you want, you can actually remove these pieces here. I usually keep them because that padding is nice. Right here, this actually feeds all the way through out here, connects with this buckle. I have it out because I was adjusting this. So on the outside, obviously laser cut pals, you can put whatever pouches you want. What else is cool though is you actually have access to the belt right here. So you can take the buckle off, which I did, and feed this back through. And then, depending on how you're going to use it, which I have, basically put a Safariland universal belt loop through here, then fed this back through, and now I actually have an exposed holster that I can easily access hanging from my pack belt if I'm out in the backcountry. Really cool being able to do that. All of that said, what has been my experience? How have I used this? Well, again, kind of made for everyday carry, and I've kind of used it like that. My first experience having received this, I believe, coming up on 2 years ago now, like maybe summer 2019, I ended up taking this over to Hawaii. It was my carry-on, and then while I was over there, I ended up actually hiking through the Haleakala crater with my boys, about 12 miles, and yeah, carried this pack. It did a good job for me. And I showed you how usually I'll have my laptop, cables, things like that, hard drives when I travel. Does a good job. I've definitely used this thing kind of outside of its scope though. Definitely pushed it some. I've used this pack actually on a 30-mile adventure, little overnight backpacking trip with a couple friends, and had this thing loaded down. Granted, it was during summer, so didn't have to put tons of things in it, but no, going up and over mountains, and it did a good job. A couple things that allow for flexibility is the laser cut pals, to include on the bottom here. Being able to go ahead and run straps through there and attach like a sleeping pad or something like that, because this will only fit so many things. And being able to actually expand out from this pack is pretty handy, because especially the way this is divided, it doesn't lend itself to just jamming a bunch of stuff in there, because these are two different pockets. It's not just one big pocket in there. So being able to expand on the outside, definitely really handy. I've taken it a number of times to include actually some skiing. With my buddy, Bill Rapier, we ended up actually skiing up a ski mountain because we did not have lift tickets. And yeah, had everything I needed in here, whether it was water, warming layer, shovel, as well as, yeah, beacon, think backcountry stuff, to include a probe, things along those lines. And I've also taken it out on a adventure, cruising along on snowmobiles. Also took this up, I believe it was Goat Peak we were going up, and snowshoeing up in the winter. Made it really easy, again, with these outside pieces to be able to shove warming layers, or shells for that matter, being able to basically regulate temperature mechanically as you start to overheat, take something off, throw it in there, pull it straight out, throw it back on. And having the belt on here is pretty cool with respect to, for me personally, out in the backcountry, being able to carry a pistol. It makes it really easy rather than trying to figure out one, either slinging some sort of long gun, something along those lines, or just having your pistol not very accessible when you have that belt on. So definitely like that. Is there anything in my experience I don't really care for with this pack? Not really. Like, I think it is incredibly well made, and it's definitely, while it can be used to do a lot of things, because I have done all kinds of things with this pack, it's definitely more tailor-made for like everyday carry. And I think within that realm, it does an amazing job and really gives people a lot of really good organizational stuff in here. As far as those different zippered mesh pouches, open it up, see exactly what you have, it's right there. Same with that internal organizer. I think it's really cool. I will say, I don't commute to work or like everyday carry per se. So to that end, for me, a lot of those organizational things, which I think are really cool, I just don't use. And it's not because they're not useful, it's because like every time I go on adventures, it's largely with new gear, not because I don't want to have this set of tailored gear for whatever I'm going to do. It's because I'm in the business of just reviewing stuff. So I'm constantly taking new stuff out. So if I throw stuff in those mesh pouches, I just forget about it. I'm like, what did I do with this? But if you're someone that's organized and you like to be organized, this thing's amazing. You have so much organization in here to where you're like, oh yeah, like I need this. It's right here because I always keep it there. And probably unique to me, but I'm always using different stuff. Like, yeah, it might be a fork, but it's gonna be a different fork because I'm using this other one that I'm gonna eventually do a review on, like whatever it may be, like backpacking, something along those lines. So I'm constantly using different stuff, and consequently don't use the organizational stuff like I probably would if I had a set of gear that I basically carried around in this pack, if that makes any sense. And if you're wondering, will this fit like a little carbine or AR pistol? Yes. Actually did a little competition pulling a honey badger pistol out of this at one of the range days this year, or last year, 2020 range day, and yeah, worked great. Lastly, with respect to dimensions, about 20 inches and going from about 11 inches down to 9 inches wide, and kind of depth in there, about 7 inches. If you're looking for one of these packs, you can pick it up through Prometheus Design Werx. Cost about just under 200 bucks. I think like $198. Is that expensive? Yes. If you just need a backpack, go buy a JanSport or whatever at like, I don't know, Big Five, something like that. This is not that, that's not this. So yeah, nice things usually cost money. And if it's outside of your price range, it's outside of your price range. But if you have the money and you can use a lot of the features that are built into this, I definitely think there's some value there. I think really kind of well-designed, well-engineered pack. If you have any experience with it, let me know how it's done for you. And if you appreciate the content I create and want to support it, greatly appreciate it. Whether it's liking and sharing videos or going over to kitbadger.com, picking up stickers, KBAT target pads, or supporting me directly through Patreon, really appreciate that as well. And if you have questions for me, anything like that, probably not down in the YouTube comments, but you can get me over on Patreon where we have a Discord set up. Love to hear your thoughts, but as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.
All systems to stop right here, so we are as pretend. So many things could be a mystery.